Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine. My name is Vic Shy, and this is the Scare Score, where I break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. In this episode, I'll be going over the viewer-requested 2007 Japanese horror film, Carved, the SLIT-MOUTHED Woman. I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film while breaking down each scare scene and scoring them on how scary they are or attempt to be. The film is based on one of the most infamous and scariest Japanese urban legends, Kuchisake-Onna. But how scary is it? Sit back and relax and join me as we explore Carved, the SLIT-MOUTHED Woman, and tally up the scare score. Our movie begins wasting no time in letting us know what the film is going to be about. Lots of scissoring. After watching scissors flying in a bunch of directions and colors, we see several people talking about the urban legend of the slit-mouthed woman. They talk of a boy who came across a woman with long black hair while wearing a white mask and a long coat. The woman asked him, "Am I pretty?" and took off her mask to reveal her mouth slit from ear to ear. Those caught by the slit-mouthed woman are taken back to her lair, where she then cuts the mouths of her victims from ear to ear. This urban legend has been passed down for many years and seems to have mysteriously regained popularity. Three young boys wait at a local park for the slit-mouthed woman, who is said to appear there at 5 p.m. We see a mother being absolutely terrible to her young daughter named Mika. She is verbally and physically abusive and wishes that the slit-mouthed woman would take her away. We meet our main character Kyoko, a school teacher who tells her students not to gossip about the slit-mouthed woman. She has a conversation with another teacher, Noboru, who walks into a classroom with the woman drawn on the chalkboard. Kyoko goes to the roof of the school when an earthquake suddenly happens. As everyone reacts and tries taking cover, we hear an eerie voice asking, "Am I pretty?" The slit-mouthed woman emerges holding quite possibly the largest pair of scissors I have ever seen. Her initial reveal made me think of two things. This film probably won't be scary, and someone thought that cardboard boxes would be enough to keep the slit-mouthed woman sealed away. After the earthquake, one of the boys in the park is grabbed by the slit-mouthed woman, who I'll be referring to as the SMW for the rest of this video. The other two boys take off running, and the young boy is declared kidnapped. The kidnapping has created a massive scare throughout the community. A young boy named Masatoshi is gathering information on the SMW. A group of girls bully Mika for wearing a face mask resembling that of the SMW. However, they quickly realize that she is wearing a mask to hide an injury caused by her mother. This film portrays two things that I absolutely despise: child abuse and bullying. Unfortunately, Mika is the tragic victim of both. As a safety precaution, students are being walked home in groups by their teachers. When her mom arrives, Mika makes it clear she doesn't want to go home. Noboru once again hears the voice of the SMW asking,
"Am I a pretty girl?"
Kyoko stays with Mika a little longer and realizes that she is being abused. Instead of comforting her, she aggressively insists that her mom loves her and scares Mika away. Mika runs right into the arms of the SMW and Kyoko completely freezes. While struggling, Mika rips off her mask, revealing the SMW's disfigured face. Frozen in shock, Kyoko only looks on in horror as the slit-mouthed woman takes Mika away. The scariest thing about this scene is without a doubt the SMW's face. Her gaze is absolutely menacing, and the scars on her face create a terrifying visualization of the urban legend. The police arrive and the search is on for the second child kidnapped by the SMW. That night, Kyoko comes home feeling defeated, and we learn why she may have freaked out on Mika earlier. She tries calling her young daughter named Ai, but the father doesn't let them speak. Kyoko was probably abusive towards Ai, which would explain why she defended Mika's mom. She has a dream that confirms this, where she slaps Ai and the SMW takes her away. In the dream, the SMW fully opens her mouth, which makes her even more terrifying. Mika's mom feels horrible for what happened to her, and even more so because of how badly she's been treating her daughter. She reveals that she became abusive towards Mika after the death of her husband. It's absolutely no excuse, but the film doesn't try to paint her like an absolute monster. She shows remorse for what she's done, and she clearly loves her daughter, something made evident when she immediately got on top of her during the earthquake in the beginning. A news report about the recent kidnappings plays on the TV that has a pretty eerie feel to it. Two young girls are watching the news and one of the girls asks if their mom is the SMW. Their mom is wearing a mask because she caught a cold and can't stop coughing. She goes out to buy some medicine and leaves the girls alone at home, which is pretty irresponsible considering everything going on. The whole community comes together during this difficult time to help pass out flyers of Mika and the missing boy, including Mika's best friend and her former bullies. These terrible events have severely impacted the small community. Local schools are closed and Kyoko is temporarily suspended because of the bad press surrounding her involvement. Noboru questions her about her encounter with the SMW and shows her a picture of a woman who looks very similar to her. The woman in the picture looks extremely sad and creepy at the same time. He then hears the SMW's voice once more and the pair team up to go ghost hunting and kid rescuing. He says that he hears the strange voice every time a child is kidnapped. He is somehow able to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from and drive to it. The SMW's next victim is a boy named Masatoshi, who's been gathering information on her. Noboru and Kyoko arrive, but not soon enough to prevent Masatoshi from being snatched up by the SMW. Noboru comes face to face with the SMW, who seems to have a look of pain coming from her eyes. As menacing as a ghostly woman with long black hair, a carved up face holding massive pairs of scissors already is, the SMW is scariest when she simply asks, "Am I pretty?" She attacks Noboru, who is rescued by Kyoko, who stabs the SMW several times with a small knife. They successfully take her out, but another problem immediately presents itself. It turns out that the SMW was possessing the body of the sick mother of the young girls named Kazuko Yoshida, who is now dead. I'm pretty sure the script wants her dead, even though her stomach is clearly going up and down. After taking out Mrs. Yoshida, in clear self-defense, they take the next most logical horror movie step, continue investigating on their own and don't report anything to the police.
口先女はもう消えたんですか?
Being that we're only 30 minutes into the movie, probably not, kid. He hands them his journal containing all the information he's gathered on the SMW. Kyoko is horrified when she learns that Mrs. Yoshida had two little girls who are now motherless. Noboru reveals that the SMW is the spirit of his mother, Taeko Matsuzaki. We see a flashback of Taeko, who was extremely abusive to Noboru and his two siblings. He says that his siblings and his mother eventually disappeared, leaving him all alone. However, what truly happened to them is revealed later, and I have an interesting theory surrounding the slit-mouthed woman in this film. Also, the slit-mouthed woman recreates exactly what my dad did 25 years ago. Although, unlike my dad, his mother reappears years later and he hears her voice once more. They hop into the car and drive towards the sound of the voice as if they have the exact map telling them where to go. Mika's best friend Natsuki is hard at work putting out flyers of Mika when her mother starts coughing. She immediately transitions into the SMW and takes Natsuki away. Not the smoothest of transitions, but that's acceptable given the low budget of the film, and I did find the scene to be effective. Noboru and Kyoko arrive but are too late and don't realize that another kidnapping just took place. We are now taken to the dark lair of the slit-mouthed woman, which appears to be a basement. She drops Natsuki to the ground and we see Mika and Fumiaki tied to a pole. The SMW wastes no time in showing Natsuki exactly how Joker got those scars. She then mercilessly dispatches Fumiaki with her scissors and takes his body away. Mika manages to grab a shard of broken pottery and starts cutting away at the rope. This is a decently scary scene that really shows how vicious the slit-mouthed woman really is. None of the violence is actually shown, but the implication is scary enough. Fumiaki's body is soon discovered in a brief but horrific moment. The scariness in this scene comes from the disturbing factor of seeing the aftermath of the SMW's brutality towards her victims. With Fumiaki's body found dead, the search for Mika seems less hopeful and her mother decides to go investigating on her own. That night, Natsuki is found by her father and her friends. This scene is especially effective thanks to the combination of two things: the revelation of her injury and the reaction of her father. Masatoshi is questioned by the police about his encounter with the SMW. He seems hesitant at first but instantly changes his mind and tells them everything he knows. Noboru and Kyoko get stopped at a checkpoint by police officers looking for Mika. She reads Masatoshi's journal, which says that the SMW hides children in a house with a red roof. Noboru says that his childhood home had a red roof, which makes me wonder why he didn't think to check there a little sooner. Mika's mom knocks on the door of a random woman to ask information on the SMW, and by random, I mean completely random because I haven't seen that lady or her kid anywhere prior to this scene. Thankfully, this completely random person's kid happens to know the exact location of the SMW's hideout.
小向山だって。
What would we do without you, completely random person's kid? Our ghost hunting elementary teacher duo arrive at Childbeck Hill, and Noboru looks like he's about to experience some intense Vietnam flashbacks. This completely intact and easy to read sign takes away the hassle of finding the right hill. Back at the lair, Mika has unsuccessfully cut through her restraints, but she never stopped trying, and I admire her efforts. Noboru arrives at his childhood home, which is completely abandoned and boarded up. They go in searching for Mika and find the closet door and boxes where the SMW was sealed away. Noboru finds a knife and transitions into a flashback right on cue. This is where the curse of the slit-mouthed woman gets pretty intriguing. We see Taeko beating on young Noboru but becomes immediately remorseful of what she's done. She hugs young Noboru and says that she didn't mean to hurt him. She leaves the room and quickly walks back in holding a knife while poor Noboru thinks he's about to get whacked. She pleads with him to use the knife to separate her noggin from her spine. She believes that the next time she goes crazy, she is going to take his life. She begs him to aim for their neck, but he doesn't want to hurt her. She starts coughing, grabs a nearby pair of scissors, and swings for the fences. Thankfully, her aim level is relatively low and she misses. Even though she missed the first time, she abides by the tried and true King Neptune philosophy.
I think I'd like to try it a second time.
This time, Noboru defends himself and slices her across the face. She pleads with him to aim at her neck for the 10th time, and he decides he'll just go for the stomach. Young Noboru covered his mother's face with a mask and placed a long coat over her body. He then placed her body inside of a closet, still holding the scissors, and closed the door. I would have replaced those scissors with flowers or a pillow and cut our future problems about in half. So, let's unpack this a little. Prior to this flashback, we saw the slit-mouthed woman possess the bodies of several mothers. Those who became possessed developed a cough prior to being fully controlled by the SMW. This is the same cough that Taeko had throughout the flashbacks. She coughed, became violent, and then remorseful. While it's never really confirmed, I think the film hints that Taeko herself was possessed by an unknown evil entity that made her turn violent against her children. Taeko herself seemed to be aware that she was being possessed but couldn't do anything to stop it. This is why she specifically told Noboru to aim for the neck, knowing it would truly vanquish whatever evil was inside her. So whatever evil spirit possessed Taeko now uses her soul and terrifying image to carry on its evil deeds, creating the infamous slit-mouthed woman. Although none of that explains why he hears her say, "Am I pretty?" which may have just been added in there for those familiar with the urban legend. Noboru now realizes what his mother meant by aim for the neck and knows exactly what must be done to finally put his mother to rest. Inside the closet, they find a secret hole leading to the basement and lair of the SMW. They head into the basement and finally find Mika. Noboru sees two skeletons, most likely the remains of his siblings. As they walk out of the house, he hears his mother's voice telling him to aim for the neck. This is actually the scariest her voice has sounded the entire film. The SMW wastes absolutely no time. She suddenly appears and immediately stabs Noboru in the side. She cuts his heels and drags his body away as Kyoko tries to escape. The way the SMW hits people is kind of comical, and she absolutely loves to kick. Mika's mom arrives at the house and follows the trail of blood leading to the closet. She links up with Kyoko and then runs into the basement where the SMW is still kicking. She pushes the SMW and embraces her daughter, which earns her a pair of scissors to the back. Kyoko grabs the rusty old knife and jams it into the back of her neck, which is enough to briefly put her down. She hands the knife to Noboru so he can finish the job and finds that the SMW has turned back into Natsuki's mom. Mika's mom starts coughing and immediately turns into the SMW, making the reunion with her daughter short-lived. The SMW then slowly starts walking towards Mika and Kyoko while weirdly arching her back. It kind of looks silly and her speed is non-threatening. Noboru holds her legs, allowing Kyoko and Mika to escape. However, she still puts the absolute beat down on him and stabs him once more. Her mask comes off in the struggle and he drives the knife into her stomach. Taeko's spirit breaks through the evil one last time and tells him to aim for her neck. In this moment, I feel that that Noboru sees his mom unpossessed for the last time. The look on her face also seems like a loving one before she raises her neck. He finally listens to his mom and aims for the neck this time. The entire house starts to shake as Noboru climbs on top of his mom and finishes the job. As wooden planks fall on top of the basement, we see Noboru holding his mother's head as he also passes away from his injuries. Although not very scary, this was a pretty intense scene. The same can be said about the entire film. Kyoko and Mika escape the house and Mika calls out to her mom. Although she was highly despicable in the beginning of the film, I feel that she redeemed herself and gave her life for her daughter. We see a very eerie shot of her head right next to Noboru as the SMW can be seen standing in the dark, showing that aiming for the neck didn't work. In the film's final scene, Ai's father finally allows Kyoko to see her. Kyoko apologizes to her daughter for her past behavior and Ai forgives her. The mother and daughter embrace, but Kyoko immediately starts to cough and turns into the slit-mouthed woman as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Carved, the Slit-Mouthed Woman. My friends, this was a decent horror film with an interesting take on the terrifying Kuchisake-Onna urban legend. The story was serviceable and there are some decent moments throughout that kept the plot engaging. However, the film just isn't scary as it could have been given the terrifying source material. There are barely any scary moments and every encounter with the Slit-Mouthed Woman is a rinse and repeat of the very first scene with her. She appears, kidnaps or beats on somebody and does the same thing over again. The initial reveal of her face was very well done and the climax was also very effective. Everything in between leaves a lot to be desired in terms of scares, earning Carved, the Slit-Mouthed Woman a disappointing scare score of 34%. The scariest scene in the film was the final shot inside of the basement. Immediately seeing the head of Mika's mother caught me off guard and it was pretty disturbing. Also, seeing the SMW standing there menacingly then disappearing in the dark made her seem a lot more menacing than she was the entire film. But, as always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for tuning in and I cannot wait to see y'all next year right back here in the Horror Mine. Y'all stick around and Happy New Year, everybody.